Hey, this is Judah from SceneForge Studio, and in this video I'm going to talk about version 0.2.1, which doesn't sound like that big of a difference since the previous one, but it actually has one of my favorite new features that I think will make your life a lot easier. So let's start with talk about the big stuff, and then we'll talk about the little improvements that also just improve the software overall. So first and foremost, previously, if you were to download a model from the internet, you would have to unzip the archive, move out the 3D model source files, textures, whatever, maybe even rename them, and it was kind of a pain. So now, if you were to open up, let's say, Sketchfab, download a 3D model, and get the zip file that it comes with, you can just go to Import, Model, and actually select the zip file itself. So I'm going to go to the TARDIS 3D model, click Import, and you get the normal import dialog. And after a couple seconds, you get access to the model in all of its... there we go, over here. It's quite large. And so now there's the 3D model, exactly as you'd expect. So it removes a couple steps that previously were necessary, just makes your life easier. But let's go one step further. Let's say there's a model from Sketchfab you wanted to use, or you wanted to just browse the Sketchfab library. It's pretty great. So what we did was they actually built it right into SceneForge. So let's go to Import, and there's a new option here that you might have seen a couple seconds ago that says Sketchfab. That opens up this amazing little menu that you can use to sign in. So you do need a valid Sketchfab account to use this functionality, though you can sign up for one on the website for free. It takes 2 seconds. And so let's sign in and see how this works. Alright, so once you sign in, you have the Sketchfab Browser. Now it looks pretty much exactly as you'd expect. You can view all the 3D models from the home page. There's a couple different pages that will render here. So I'm going to search for a dog. And you can choose a bunch of different options, license type, which of course is very important, and the max number of faces, which is also important when working with real-time technology. So I'm going to click search, and there's a couple models here. If I uncheck staff picked, now we have much more. I'm going to use this Shiba model. So you see we click on it, we have access to the properties, of course the license, as well as the number of animations, faces, and vertices. You can also open it up in your browser. Click that button, it'll open up the browser tab, which is useful for like saving the model to a library, liking it, whatever. And yeah, that's basically the way it works. It's pretty simple. So you can click on a model, click download. This will ping the Sketchfab server, download it to your computer. It actually puts it in your project folder, exactly where the rest of your 3D models are, so it's really convenient. Then it opens up your import menu as you'd expect. Click import, and then you're basically done. And now the model appears over here in your library. So behind the scenes, it's basically no different than just going to Sketchfab, downloading the model, and then importing it. But we find that it just removes the step of having to open up a browser. It just makes things easier overall. And everything gets saved like any other 3D model. It's basically an easy and integrated way to download and browse Sketchfab for 3D models without having to do so elsewhere. So that is the biggest change, or the biggest improvement, I should say, in this release. It's very exciting, it works really well, and I'm very happy with it. Now on to some minor improvements. First and foremost, the clouds were kind of jittery previously. Now they're much smoother. They don't kind of wobble in place. They move smoother as you'd expect. We also added a little option that says FPS stats in the editor effect. This just turns on a little frames per second browser. It's currently locked at 60 because I have VSync on. So if I turn that off, now it unlocks to up to 120. I'm going to turn that off. It's just another way to browse performance, see how the app is doing on your computer. We also improved the scrolling of elements. So for example, if I were to open up all these different menus, it is much more responsive and updates accordingly. So now we can scroll properly. It's a little quirk that it had previously. Now it's fixed. Also, you might notice that these sliders look a little bit different, and that is because the value display was moved up in line with the label, and the actual slider itself was stretched out to be the full width of the panel. It's another quality of life thing that I think both looks better, it makes it easier to control in narrow menus like this. In other news, the depth of field in the previous release was essentially reversed, and the scale of the aperture was backwards, and while the effect was very intense and you can create some really creative shots, because of the bugs that went along with it, it was scaled back to be something a little more simplistic in the meantime. This, of course, will be improved as more releases get released. But for now, it is a much more simplistic version that does the job, but will be improved upon in the future, just speaking perfectly honestly. Additionally, Spout output is currently disabled. You can adjust the toggle, but it won't do anything just yet because Spout does not work on Mac. And so we're switching over to use NDI, it just makes things even easier and more compatible if you want to output the current active camera's footage to a wide number of other devices, either on your computer or elsewhere, which is really great. And with that, that is basically all the little improvements and changes that are currently in version 0.2.1. Now, in addition to releasing the more full-featured virtual production suite of tools, working with green screen and live backgrounds and things like that, optimization of the actual application is our utmost priority. We're working on making sure SceneForge runs better and smoother on your current device that are more powerful, or as well as a much wider array of less powerful devices, such as MacBooks. We're very excited to hopefully get that working, and other just lower-end Windows computers, just so anyone can get started with SceneForge. So if this is something you're interested in, you can get started completely for free at sceneforge.app, and I'd love to see what you create. You can tag us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at SceneForgeApp. It's pretty simple. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next release or the next video.